Well, today definitely feels like spring's arrived. It's lovely and warm. And I thought I'd give you a catch up of where I've got with the areas that I've been working on. So I've been working on the Cloister pergola in the last couple of days to try and finish it off, try and get it where it needs to be, ready for summer. And I think, touch wood, finally I've achieved it. I think, but who knows? So what I've done is I've bordered these sections here with some scaffold board, just simple scaffold board, to really define the area, because it's quite difficult to know what I was up to up until the point where I put these in. So those scaffold boards definitely segregate the planting area from the actual what will be the seating area, which is this. And again, I'll remind you that this is going to be clothed in climbers. The whole thing will be clothed in climbers. And that'll be clematis, roses, mainly roses, I guess. But there's some clematis there as well. Right, the other two jobs that I did, which I mentioned last week, was I thought about putting another section in up here, and I did just that. So I put a section in there. We're missing a finial at the moment, so we'll have to rectify that. And then we put another post down here, straight into the ground there, and then I added this section here. So I put some of the reinforcing mesh into this section. And that's because I want the roses to grow up that section as well. Now at the moment I have a rose growing up this post here, which I quite like, and I'm going to try and train it all the way up here before it goes on to the top, because it's not a very big climber really, that one. Whereas now I've introduced this one, this mesh rather, we can get Gertrude Jekyll rose growing hopefully through to it. As you can see, it's away now. And I must say while I'm talking, I've never seen so many ladybirds this early on. I've seen absolutely tens of them, hundreds really. But anyway, right, so this section again, I said I was likely to clothe it. I needed to, because remember, we're trying to make this look more secretive or more welcoming. So when we're sitting here, we feel enclosed, and then it becomes that cloister pergola that I want it to become. So we put more reinforcing mesh on that as well. Now the good thing is when you buy this reinforcing mesh, it's not cheap, but it's not extremely expensive. You can pick these up for about 40 quid in the UK anyway. And I love it because it gives this rusty feel straight away. And that just immediately looks brilliant, or to me it does. And then we've planted another rose there to grow up it, and that mesh will act as its backdrop. So eventually when you're sat in here, you're going to be enclosed. Now I've left these areas here deliberately open, and the other one this side here as well. They're deliberately left open because remember, once all this rose growth and clematis growth gets going, it's going to seclude a lot of it, so you're not going to see too much of what's going on in here. And I wanted you to have that feeling of enclosure and secrecy, but I also wanted it to be kind of be able to look through. So when I'm up on the back there, across that section there, you'll be able to look through this as well, which offers another look altogether. So I've been reassessing the planting. I said I'd do that. I have done. I did that yesterday and a bit of today, and I've replanted this area. And I've decided to keep Yakushamensis, which is Miscanthus sinensis, Yakujima is its correct term really, but I call it Yakushamensis for my own personal reasons. And I've got two of those going on, and then we've got a Strantia down there. You can just make that out, a Strantia, which is Muriel's gift one, the selected Jill Richardson one. And then I've got Symphotrichia. Oh, look at that. I wonder what that is. I must look that caterpillar up. Look at that. That shows how warm it is, that these things are starting to emerge. I don't know what it is. I'll leave it alone. It could be a nice butterfly, it could be a moth. It'd be one or the other. And hopefully it'll not do too much damage. Who knows? It seems to be heading for that birch tree I get problems with little critters like that chewing away the leaves once they start laying the eggs ready for when the birch leaves get going. I don't think that's it. I'll check it up later. So we've got some Trichum Monk there, so that'll later in the year it'll offer a blue carpet there, quite a blue carpet, which should look nice. I finally went for the Cuba japonica crotonifolia, and the reason I've gone for crotonifolia is because it's just a little bit better than, in my opinion, than the variegator. Variegator has a lovely deeper leaf, which is great, but crotonifolia it's just for me personally, it has a little bit better look about it, and it has these splashed leaves as opposed to dotted leaves, as you can see. So they're really nice. Now, the other thing, the Viburnum Davidi, I said I would put in here. I have now. I've put one on the corner there. I'm hoping, although I say these don't get very big, I'm hoping this is the seed raised ones and we'll get to about 3 foot. I'm hoping for that with this particular one, because it's definitely got bigger leaves than my other 4 that I originally came with. So I bought a bigger specimen anyway. They were on offer. I couldn't refuse them. You know, when you can pick that up for 12 quid when it should have been 24, then that's a good deal. So that's in there. So that's the reason I'm mentioning these things is all these sort of things are going to take shade once it becomes a shady bed. Now we've got another Astrantia, which is Muriel's gift again. It's just the Jill Richardson selection that I was given. And then we've got a Euphorbia there, which is called Excalibur, which is great. And there's a fern in the corner there, which is a Polystichum, which is really nice. Setiphyrum, I think that one is. And then I've left the Elianthus. Now, am I gonna make a mistake here? I don't know. Probably. The reason I say that is because really, Elianthus, this particular one, will require a lot of sun, and it's going to get it here, because you can see it's full sun at the moment there, and it'll shine through there. But eventually this will have this clematis growing up it, and probably shade it a little bit more than it wants. But let's face it, the Elianthus is going to get up to about 7 foot, so it's not going to cause a problem for the flower. It's going to get enough sun, and it will shoot up to the sky. The only trouble with most Elianthus types of this particular type is it's a salicifolius, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. So it's a tall type, and it gets really tall, and last year it made it up to the top of that, and then the flowers are produced on top, usual little tiny sunflower flowers, and that is really better suited to a sunnier bed, not so much this one. But for now, I'm going to put up with it. I'm going to leave it, because I toyed with it last year and I couldn't decide whether I wanted it to remain in there, but I do now. I quite liked it. I liked its gangly look. I like gangly things. They look great. Now, if you take your mind back, this area caused me a bit of a problem last year, because I thought that I'd be able to get away with Euphorbia in there, which is a Robbie Ice type called Whistleberry Garnet, and it was looking absolutely stunning to start with its red tips, and it covered that area quite quickly, and that was because I'd planted about 20 plants in there. I thought I could control it, but I made the mistake of not digging in a barrier around this. I should have dug a barrier like I did with the Miscanthus lutaria riparius in the other part of the garden. I should have put a barrier into the ground to prevent it escaping, and it would have been fine. So I've had to decide, I decided last year I would get rid of it, and I've had to spray some of it off. I don't like to spray stuff off, but in this case I have to, because it'll just be everywhere if I didn't. So every time I see a little bit, I spray it off. I dig it if I can, or if I can't, and it's in an awkward area, it gets sprayed. I've no fear in using sprays if I have to. What have I replaced it with? Well, we've replaced it with Geranium Roseanne. There. Now, this was one big plant over in the boardwalk border yesterday, and it caught my eye, actually. I didn't realise it had done so well, and it was probably a 2 foot clump, because they're spread a little bit, this particular type of geranium. And this one's got the AGM, so that's really good. And it has a beautiful blue flower, and once it starts flowering, it never stops right through to autumn. And it should give me the same effect that the Euphorbia did. So it should cover all that in there, and it will take the shade, or the semi-shade that it's going to get. And don't forget, it's next to this Jekymontii, silver birch, the Betula, which is definitely budding up. As you can see, the buds are thickening up. And then the catkins are starting so far. They're not quite there. In fact, let's just show you this one. This is what they're pretty much going to look like. This is the Corylus avellana contorta. And this is what they're going to look like. They're going to look very similar to that. So that's really nice. Other planting, yeah, we just pretty much jiggled about with some hostas around this area here. And what else did I put? I put the Russian sage in here. I don't even know whether that's going to do well, but it's definitely going to have enough sun. It was inside the Cloister pergola, if you remember, last year, and it did really well in there, and it was getting semi-shade, just caused by the posts themselves, I guess. So that's what I've done in the Cloister pergola. Now, I'm really, really happy with that now. I don't really want to do anything else to it other than maybe jiggle around with planting. The whole structure itself is good. I had crazy notions of carrying on with the structure, making it even bigger, but I've decided, you know, enough's enough. It looks really good. It's going to look good from off the floating deck, which is in the background there. It's going to look really good off there once it gets going, and once it gets clothed in all the roses and the clematis, it's going to look stunning. And it'll have a lovely scent to it. The roses I've chosen for scent. So it should be pretty good. So that's the Cloister pergola finished, I think. Oh, another reason I call it the Cloister pergola is because Sam up at Bardney Manor gave me these little features, these little plant pots. And they're from a garden. I believe they're just cast concrete, but they're on a ecclesiastical, do you call it? On a sort of churchy theme. That's what they are. So that's another part why I called it another reason why I called it the Cloister pergola, for that very reason. It looks good. Now, I found a couple of euphorbias, which I always hope to find. I don't know what they are yet. These could be seedlings from the euphorbia whistleberry garnet. They could be. Don't know yet. Don't forget, I've got another euphorbia in there, which is Excalibur further back there. Back in there, so it could be them as well because it was closer to them. But the thing is, remember, ants carry the seeds of euphorbias, and seeds from euphorbias also pop when they're ripe, and they can shoot 2 or 3 feet away, if not more, and ants carry them even further than that. So it could be anything, but I've kept them because I want to see what happens. Looking at that at the minute, I'm kind of got my money on whistleberry garnet type. We'll leave it to grow, develop. We'll take both of those 2 out, and we'll see what they do. Time will tell with those. So eventually this will have a seat in here, a proper garden seat, as opposed to the chairs. The chairs are just there to show you the idea, but hopefully we'll come across a second-hand or reclaimed seat and we'll put it in there, and that should look really nice. So I'm really happy with this now. We're just waiting for it all to grow now. We'll show you the progress as that happens. As I said, spring is here now. It's doing really well, and everything's gone. Everything's gone. No, everything hasn't gone. Everything's growing, rather. So while we're on it, we'll just take you through this next section as well. Now, this is where I'm at the moment with this path. I've done nothing to the path itself because, as I said, I needed to be 100% sure that that's what I was going to do. So I've moved things around. We've got this big path here, which is looking really nice. And then this path here, there's no way really that I can show you. Oh, there's a way I can show you. Right, it's not really easy to see how much that from that there to that there drops. And it's something like that, believe it or not. That's how far it is on a hill. It's kind of a hillside, isn't it? It would have been a hillside from the brick wall all the way down to the hedge. Now, if I'd have started this at another time, I'd have probably done this different. Probably done it a little bit different, but as I am where I am, I'm quite happy with it. I'm going to work with what I've got. We're going to go for the tiled effect so we can show you. I'm going to edge it with bricks. It's not going to be too much of an effort, to be honest, so we'll have this kind of effect all the way across it, and it'll go all the way down to the bottom. Now, I've been very conscious of keeping this path a little bit skinny because I wanted it as a pinch point. I wanted you to be able to almost make you want to run through it rather than walk through it. And if we had little kids here, that's exactly what they would do. But what I wanted to do, and I was conscious again, and I says I wanted to keep this square, and that's what I'm doing. So I've drawn this out just to remind myself, this yellow marker, just to make sure that I've remembered what I said was that I wanted to have it as a square section, and hopefully that'll be fine. Now I've moved these Taxus baccata, which are Taxus baccata standishii, very slow growing, but they kind of give the feeling of a start of something, or a walkway through, which is great. I've also just temporarily put this tin in this corner because I've had a move around of other plants within this area. I know what they're going to look like. I'm not 100% committed to that at the moment. I'd probably rather have a square planter in there, which I do have. I have a couple around the garden that I can move here. I've just put this Viburnum davidii into this round one. May look good. I've got to bear in mind that once this is where the yellow is, once that's dropped down to the level I want it, because don't forget I've got to, that level there, that level's got to be dropped down to it, and that's a good foot of a drop I've got to make on it. So that's, yeah, that's going to be some hard work, but that'll be fine. That'll be easy enough for me to do, albeit hard work. And we will probably, not 100% sure yet, but I may go for a complete brick effect on that section, so it separates it from the path that comes up to it, and then we'll carry it on in quarry tiles if we've got enough down the rest of it. So let's go through that again so you completely understand what I'm saying. Right, so the quarry tiles will start there, we'll go all the way down, we'll come to the old bricks, which will all be flattened. Don't forget they'll all be flat, it won't be on the hillside, it'll be flattened down for comfort and for ease of walking on it. And then we'll go around this corner here and we'll carry on quarry tiles again, and it'll give you a pathway round. And then what that'll do is it'll make you and force you, don't forget paths take you on a journey, it'll force you around and make you want to go around there to see what's going on. And don't forget there's a lot of plants in there that are not up yet, some late perennials that'll be up very shortly, they'll not be long before they're up, and we'll see what happens with them. So that's where I'm at the moment. The next stage will be flattening that area in the background where the paths are going, if only just to get it level for now, which will be a nightmare because you've got to then walk on the soil, and it's bad enough walking on soil and then walking onto this gravel as it is. It clags up, but it's looking good. So we'll just take you up above again, because don't forget I have to go up these steps back to the French doors that we had put in, and that was the very reason putting in the deck in there. But the other reason is we've got a couple of seats on it. We've used it this morning. Des has been down to see me, and we've sat here and had a cup of tea together and whiled away 20 minutes or so. But it looks really good, so we get really nice effects from up here now, and it's just looking stunning. On a day like today, it looks cracking. And you can see where I'm aiming. So you can see by sitting up here, I can plan all the things to make sure it looks good from all angles, because that's what it's about. It's about, I'm not just going to be sat up here looking at it, I'm also going to be down there walking through it. So there you go. That's the update on the Cloister pergola, which hopefully is now finished. There's the gap I talked about. It's just a point of interest. Remember, all the mesh either side of that gap is going to be clothed in climbers. And that should look absolutely fantastic. Okay, thanks for looking. I'll talk to you again soon. Ta-da.